From the East Texas Sports Network studios, powered by Texas Dairy Queen, a tradition of excellence, the ETSN podcast, where Clint Buckley and Mike Graham offer their, well, they just talk. It's the lowdown on everything high school football in East Texas. And now, Clint Buckley and Mike Graham.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ETSN.fm podcast Week 4 edition. I'm Clint Buckley, and I'm joined by Magic Mike Graham. What's up, Mike?
Oh, man. I was expecting that, and I've been watching a lot of Friday Night Lights, the TV series lately, Slam and Sammy from that. I was wondering, if we're doing this and I'm going to be Magic Mike, what are you going to be?
But don't take this the wrong way, but, you have some Channing Tatum qualities about you.
Oh, yeah. I'm chiseled like him for sure.
Yeah, you're a ladies' man. You have the look.
Okay.
Yeah, don't take that the wrong way, by the way. Well, we're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Well, we're about a third of the way through the 2015 season. It's hard to believe, but I think we've got a pretty good grasp on what's going on in East Texas right now through 3 games. And since there are several teams that are off this week, instead of previewing the Friday night ahead, I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at some of the biggest storylines in East Texas through Week 3. And I guess we'll start with the Pittsburgh Pirates, 3-0. First-year coach Brad Baca is getting it done.
Yeah, really seeing a lot of progress, and watching Brian Baca, the quarterback's numbers, the coach's brother, it's pretty remarkable to see what they're doing so early in the season. Beating Gladewater was a really nice accomplishment, and just overall, I don't think that we had them 3-0 and looking great heading closer to their district season. Well,
here's the deal. Both you and I thought last year, we saw those players come in for pictures last summer, and I knew a little bit about them from the year before. They were young 2 years ago, but they looked good. They looked the part, and they had a great coach, Dickie Meeks, and I thought that they were headed in the right direction. It started off bad. They were able to salvage enough of it to make the playoffs a season ago, but still, I think a lot of people felt like maybe they underachieved a little bit. Coach Meeks retires and subsequently unretires and is at Mount Vernon now.
Like a 3-month vacation.
Right. And then Pittsburgh hires Brad Baca, a first-year head coach. He spent the last several years running the offense at Chapel Hill. I saw them scrimmage Carthage at the very beginning. It was the first scrimmage, and there were some rough spots. You would figure that with a new offense. First time ever going up against a different opponent, let alone, it's Carthage. They'll make teams look bad, not just in scrimmages, but in real games.
Yeah, they've done that so far.
Yeah, so congrats to Pittsburgh. I know it's only 3 games. District hadn't started yet, but 3-0 is a great start for them, and I'm happy for Coach Baca. I'm happy for Pittsburgh because it's been a while since Pittsburgh's been where they were a few years ago. They were a good program. They just happened to be in a district with Gilmer and Carthage and Henderson when they were at the peak of their powers. So we'll see. Pittsburgh will be an interesting team to watch. They got a tough district. Obviously, Liberty-Ilo is in it. And speaking of Liberty-Ilo, I don't know how many of y'all saw what they did to Arkansas High last week, but they were not too friendly with their state border rivals. Kimon Freeman, 494 yards of offense, 6 combined for 6 touchdowns. Liberty-Ilo puts up a school record, 838 yards of offense. 838 yards of offense. I know we shouldn't be surprised these days with all these crazy video game numbers, but 800, that's a big number.
Yeah, it's insane. In comparing their performance against Arkansas High to Texas High's the week before, it is really impressive what they did in their smaller school, and you're seeing come on, and
mm-hmm.
The offense is well-rounded, and they're looking good heading on and, continuing on in their non-district path.
Yeah, they lose their opener to Gilmer. It's 50-45. It's a close game. And, Gilmer led for about 3 they led by 3 touchdowns, I think, like in the third quarter, and Liberty-Ilo came back. Gilmer, kind of survived them that first week, and I'm not so sure if they played right now that the way Ellie's rolling on offense, that they may win that game. And so I think things are looking up for Liberty-Ilo. We saw what they did last year. They go all the way to the state quarterfinals. They lose by 3 points to Argyle, which ended up, fighting tooth and nail with Navasota for the state championship game. I think Ellie has as good a shot as anybody in East Texas to get to NRG Stadium in Houston for the state championships in December. So They're an exciting team to watch. I'll see them this week. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my second time to see them. And speaking of Gilmer, Gilmer and Wascom are 2 state champions from a season ago. There were some doubters coming into the season. Gilmer lost Jeff Traylor as their coach. They lost all that offensive talent, which included quarterback McLean Carter, Chris Boyd, Blake Lynch, and several others. They're 3-0. Wascom loses, the core of that team that had been playing together since they were freshmen. They're 3-0. They had a nice comeback win against Hugh Springs last Friday. Hugh Springs got off to a big lead, and Hugh Springs was looking good through the first 2 weeks. And I think, here's where Wascom's gonna stumble. But nope, they come back and they ended up winning like 58-36. So Wascom's offense looks every bit as potent as it was last year. So doubters, Gilmer and Wascom, I'm not so sure it was the smartest thing to do because now look at them, they're 3-0.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, how could you think that Gilmer was going to replace the second highest scoring offense in Texas State history, only behind that Alito team from the year prior? I mean, what they've done is tremendous, and they've done it with 2 quarterbacks because the starting quarterback, Zach Spears, had appendicitis ahead of the Tatum game. They have a great crutch to lean on through the whole season with that defense, anchored by
namely DeMarco Boyd. Yeah.
But the offense is coming along, and that's a good sign for another long playoff run. And I'm excited to see what they do again this week. And then Wascom, that's a team. The turnover on the Class 3A Division II level is pretty intense year to year. And
just because the numbers aren't the same as they are at the bigger programs.
Exactly. You don't hang on to starters very long. Once they're gone. And it was pretty remarkable that they had 2-star players.
Yeah, I mean, Junebug Johnson, Kevin Johnson, those guys have been playing since they were freshmen. Dylan Benton, their fullback, Trace Carter, the quarterback. A lot of good players graduated off that year's team, and there was some doubt as to if they were going to have the right replacements, to make another run. But so far, so good. They're 3-0. Now that's the positive. Those are the positive storylines through 3 weeks, and there is some negative. And I guess we'll start that with John Tyler 0-3. You saw them the last 2 weeks, and not surprised that they lost to crosstown rival Lee last week, but 69 points allowed. That's ugly. Yeah,
you look at their losses and they're not surprising by themselves, but it is surprising that they've gone 0-3. Defense is the strong suit, and like you said, a very good Tyler Lee defense put up 69 points on them, so there's work to do there. But I still think that the biggest challenge for John Tyler is to get that offense rolling, because right now quarterback Bryson Smith is the leading rusher, and that's never a good thing to put your whole offense on one player. And he's still coming along in the passing game too, so there's just a lot of pressure on him. They do get the bye week this week, so
that'll help.
Yeah, I think that really will help. And then a really tough White House team that seems to have turned a corner since getting blown away by Texas High in the first week with back-to-back wins against Chapel Hill and then a blowout win of its own against Sulphur Springs.
Yeah, that was nuts. 59 first-half points.
Yeah, we'll see how they bounce back. But, the time is now, because the district doesn't get it much easier after you take on White House.
No, it doesn't. And then, speaking of the 69-38 win by Lee last week over John Tyler, it was all good until everyone found out the fallout, the aftermath of the injury suffered by Zach Hall during that game. He's done for the year. That's not what anyone wanted to hear, especially Daryl Piskey, the head coach.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking to learn that, because I talked to Zach after the game Friday, and he was just having a good time. He had crutches, but it was a precaution, and he thought he'd go get an MRI and maybe it'd come back positive, and maybe he'd have some torn meniscus, but obviously that MRI showed something a little more serious in his knee.
And I had a question for you too, because I read your story from the game, and that's the first thing that jumped out to me was how upbeat and confident Zach was. And looking back on it now, I'm wondering if it was just because he had just seen his team beat crosstown rival JT, and maybe somebody had told him it's probably not going to be that bad, we'll wait for the MRI tomorrow. But just enjoy this win. But then I saw Coach Piskey's, I don't know the tone that Coach Piskey was using when he was talking to you when you asked him about Zach Call's injury, but he seemed a little more concerned than Zach did. Is that am I reading too much into that?
He was okay. He just didn't know. He didn't want to commit one way or the other on the injury, and that was smart because it turned out to be way worse than you thought it would be. I'm guessing, and I'll learn more after hanging out with Tyler Lee tomorrow or Thursday. I'm guessing he had some kind of ligament damage. An ACL or an MCL are the two obvious things that might have gone wrong with that knee. But they're not very painful, and you can pretty much do anything under real life circumstances when you have that injury. The only thing you can't do is cut when you turn and run.
And that's a huge part of Zach Call's game.
But like everyday life, it's not very painful after the initial sting goes away. And there are people out there that tear ACLs and MCLs and never get them repaired, and they don't even know that their ligaments are damaged. So
I guess he's fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, that could be another thing. Just you don't know the severity of it until you get that MRI.
Well, earlier today we had a chance to speak with Gabe Brooks, a recruiting analyst from Scout.com. He was able to check out a few East Texas teams. He doesn't get to do that as much anymore now that he's moved to the Metroplex, and that's his base for what he does. But we had a chance to talk to Gabe about what his first impressions were of East Texas and the kind of talent that a few of the teams have this year in the way of recruiting. I guess we'll start with Lufkin. Which player or players made the biggest impression on you last weekend for Lufkin?
Well, Lufkin, they have so many guys who are young guys, 2017, 2018 class. Cordell Rogers, it was really my first chance to see him play quarterback in a real game situation. I'd seen him play quarterback in 7-on-7, but as we all know, it's a whole lot different when you're in an actual game.
Right.
And he looked really good. I don't know if he's going to project as a quarterback in college. He may be more of an athlete who can play some quarterback for you occasionally, but is primarily a receiver or an all-purpose kind of back kind of a guy. But a very good player who already has the attention of like Texas. He was at their invitation-only camp in July. I believe 2018, Jeremiah Davis is a guy who could get some recruiting attention in the coming months. He has a good frame and he's athletic, and he could probably get some attention as a receiver or potentially a safety. They just have a lot of young guys, a ton of young guys, and of course Bronson Massey, their big senior recruit who has those Cal and Washington, those Pac-12 offers, and a few more. Still hearing from schools like Texas and LSU, they're probably monitoring their boards to see how they, how they figure what guys hire on their boards. But he's somebody who he's good enough and talented enough and fits, like Texas probably would want him at the Fox. LSU with their new DC is changing to the 3-4, so I'm sure they're keeping him somewhere on their board as maybe a backup plan to play that 3-4 hybrid outside linebacker edge rusher, because that's probably what he would do. But Lufkin, very impressive overall. There's some guys I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but 2017 and 2018 classes there, they should have them pretty good for the next couple of years.
Shifting gears to Gladewater. Now, everyone in the state has heard of Dalen Mack, who's now busting some heads down at A&M as a true freshman. But Gladewater's certainly not depleted when it comes to recruiting at the moment. They've got some players, right?
They have a few. I think their best one is Darnell McKnight, 2017 running back, though he did not play. I don't think he played it down a running back the other day when we saw him. He was playing primarily outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. Played well, but his big impact on that game was a 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. 5'10", 221 at the ETSN APEC Combine back in May. Laser time in the 4.7s, which at that age and that size is pretty impressive. I would love to see him get some carries I know last year I believe he had almost 800 yards, and I would, they got another guy, Marcelo Jackson, getting a lot of the carries, and he's a good back, very good back. Probably, another recruit type for them potentially, FCS, maybe FBS, but he's maybe more of an athlete as he projects to the next level, about 6 feet, 175, and athletic, maybe a safety. Quantarius Turner is a D lineman who could eventually get some attention. He's been on a lot of people's radars here for about a year, teaming with Dalen Mack this time last year. Haven't heard anything new on him in a while, but, he's 6'1.5", 6'2", probably 280, 285 range. Got good size. Plays in for Gladewater, probably a D tackle if he plays at the next level. But I really think Darnell McKnight is their best one as far as projecting as a college caliber D1 recruit. And, hopefully, I'm sure as the season progresses, they're going to work him more into their offense, considering he had such a good year on offense last year.
Well, Gabe, finally, Longview. The Lobos have enjoyed a good long run of really high-end recruits and future college and NFL stars in recent years. What did you see from them over the weekend?
The overall, just the team, as far as what they look like on the eyeball test, they're very Longview, meaning they're undersized across the board. They have a couple of big guys, like Tim Clay's not undersized, but 6'6", 350 plus. Yeah. But their average size across the board is going to be below average compared to some of the teams you're going to run into in the playoffs from the Metroplex. But they have plenty of speed. I think Tylen Miller may have impressed me the most of any of their possible college players. He is on the short side at 5'7", but he's almost 200 pounds, and he moves well for a guy who's such a ball of muscle in the running game. I think Keenan Madden has a good frame, as a potential safety prospect. He and Miller, I believe, both 2016 guys, but I think from what I've heard, their 2017, 2018 classes may have some deeper possibilities as far as Division I prospects. Travion Webster is a name I keep hearing over and over. Actually saw on Twitter today, he tweeted out a picture of all the mail he's gotten from schools like Arkansas and Oklahoma State and several others. Another safety type. They're always going to have a defensive back, namely a safety at Longview, who's going to be getting college attention, from the Traven Howards and Stephon Maxey's and all those types that they've had in the past. So Travion Webster may be the name to follow at Longview from a higher profile perspective, though I do think Tylen Miller and Keenan Madden and Tim Clay in the senior class have they have a shot here as we're still several months out from signing day.
Hey, Gabe, one more final question. Obviously, the big story out here this week is the injury to Zach Hall. Suffered a knee injury in the John Tyler game. What do you see from players that have injuries? Does it stunt their recruiting? I mean, can he expect to now only hold offers from Baylor, Texas Tech, and Missouri, or is this not going to scare colleges away?
It just depends. It's very case by case. He is a very good player, but having said that, since he's not already committed, it might hurt him. It's really hard to say. Now, some of that goes into the positions that the people the schools are wanting them. It's a little easier to find athlete types like a slot receiver or a corner or something, which is those are the positions that schools were liking him and still like him. It's a little easier to find those positions than it is to find a big D tackle. Last year Dalen Mack had gotten hurt. That's not really going to hurt his recruitment at all. For a guy who has a handful of offers, though they are Big 12, it's going to be wait and see because the priority on the recruiting front as far as positions is quarterbacks, pass rushers, offensive tackles, those kind of things. Those are harder to find really good quality players just from a number standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see, since he has not already committed. You know, if he had committed, he would be chances are he would be set up and be totally fine, because it's pretty rare that somebody pulls a scholarship because you get hurt. Because you know, first off, you know, why would you do it if you want the kid in the first place? You still want him to play, and secondly, the PR backlash that on something like that would take is you know, would be brutal. So
yeah, not good for business.
You were to pull the scholarship for a guy because he gets hurt, that's not going to be a good look. But I think that, you know, it's just a wait and see. It's so soon after he got that injury that it's too early to tell whether that will hurt him. You know, whether if that'll keep getting other offers, whether that will you know, hurt his standing with those schools that have already offered. So it's just going to have to be wait and see as far as that's concerned.
You know, you hate to see injuries like that, especially to kids that you know, have bright futures ahead of them in college, and hopefully this won't impact his career beyond high school. But Gabe, man, it was great catching up with you last weekend over in Louisiana. I mean, you were a stud at ETSN, and you're doing the thing at Scout.com. I'm telling y'all, go check out Gabe's work. You won't be disappointed. I mean, there's not a person I trust more with talent evaluation than Mr. Gabe Brooks. And we'll definitely talk soon, man. All right, take care.
Thank y'all for having me.
Again, thanks to Gabe. It's always a great interview. He always drops knowledge. We're looking forward to hearing from him all throughout the season as recruiting news comes up in East Texas.
Yeah, good stuff. Some things that, you know, obviously you and I don't get to see while statting the game, and you know, his observations have been money, and I think he's got some great ones about those three teams.
Congratulations to our players of the week. We mentioned one of them, Keemon Freeman, the quarterback from Liberty Ilo, is our offensive player of the week. 313 passing yards, 5 touchdown passes. He also added 164 yards and a touch on the ground. And he was just one of many offensive superstars in that game for LE. Again, 838 yards of offense, 66 points, school record for total yards. So congratulations to Keemon Freeman. And then our defensive player of the week is Joe Wright of West Rusk.
Yeah, and had a really strong performance against Sabine. And the score of that game was shocking, 44-0 win for the Raiders. And he played a big hand in that with 21 tackles and a tackle for loss and a fumble recovery, and you know, just everything he did helped in the shutout. You know, you look at West Rusk, and their strength last year was their defense, and they've shaved off 19 points against the same three teams that they allowed a certain point total to last year. And then offense has really come along for that team too. I mean, they've doubled up production from last year, so that's another team you're gonna have to look out for. And
yeah, how much?
You know, another district of doom with Frankston, Wascom, Elysian Fields, ARP, New Diana. It's a brutal league, but
it's gonna be some good teams
they seem much more suited for it this year. Yeah,
there are gonna be some good teams sitting at home come November when the playoffs get rolling. So, congratulations to Keemon Freeman of Liberty Ilo and Joe Wright of West Rusk, the ETSN.fm and Dairy Queen offensive and defensive players of the week. Well, that's going to do it for this week. This is Clint Buckley and Mike Graham. If you ever want to get in touch with us on Twitter, you can hit us up. I'm at Clint Buckley, and Mike, you are at Mike _ETSN.
Well,
right?
now I'm
Magic Mike
_ ETSN. No, my Twitter account, as always, is Mike _ETSN.
All right, guys. Well, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week when we come at you with the Week 5 edition of the ETSN.fm podcast. Everybody take care.